Hello everyone, welcome back for yet another Star Trek The Official Starships Collection review. In front of me now I have issue number 91, the Federation Starship Saratoga, seen on DS9 in the episode The Emissary. Of course you have a nice magazine and a ship nearby here, so I'll put that aside and get to the magazine. And you'll notice you have a very cool and very nice image of the Saratoga on the cover there. Basic information: it is Miranda class, launched in the 24th century, 243 meters long, and a maximum speed of warp 9.2. I'm going to say warp 2, so forgive me. Turn the page, you have the specification information, as well as stand assembly and other Eagle Moss information. The registry is NCC-31911, Miranda class in the 24th century. It was destroyed by the Borg in 2367. The crew is approximately 200, with 6 phaser emitters, 2 torpedo launchers, and its captain originally was Martin Jedlicka, who would later be replaced by the Vulcan captain. So yeah, turn the page, you have a nice image of the Saratoga in orbit of Earth, something that we never got to actually see happen. And there is a picture of the Vulcan captain, who many fans will recognize as J.G. Hertzler, who is the actor who played General Martok in the later seasons of DS9. So that's great. Nice piece of trivia there. Got some basic text about the ship, and turn the page, you have another great image of the ship there, and more text about it in screen caps from Emissary. And there's a diagram page showing you where the components are. And here's a section on the filming of the Saratoga, which many fans will recognize as basically the model of the Reliant from Star Trek II being reused. The actual filming model of the Reliant from Star Trek II has been reused over and over again to depict other Miranda-class starships, including the USS Saratoga, the Saratoga, of course, the Lantry, and the USS Bozeman, among others. And this section of the magazine kind of talks about that too as well. And here's a section on the evolution of Captain Benjamin Sisko, from the first year all the way up until the end of season 7. Magazine filler, of course. And here's a nice inclusion of an image from one of the promotions when DS9 first launched. This is Picard and Sisko, which was on a cover of like TV Guide, I think, back in the day. And here's more on that. And more about Benjamin Sisko. And of course the on-screen appearance page. It has appeared in Emissary Part 1, and of course in the recap of Part 2. It was on Deep Space Nine, no other shows or movies. It was designed by Joe Jennings, Mike Miner, and Lee Cole. This ship was in the Battle of Wolf 359 as depicted in Star Trek The Next Generation episode Best of Both Worlds Part 1 and 2. The Saratoga was one of 40 starships that were destroyed by the Borg, including the Kyushu, the Melbourne, etc. But this is the first time, or as of that moment in Star Trek history, Emissary Part 1 was the first time that we actually got to see the Battle of Wolf 359 actually in progress. Of course, it was all a big flashback scene, kind of a prologue, if you will. But you actually got to see some ships engage the Borg and be subsequently destroyed. So yeah. And on the back of the magazine, you have a nice image of the Saratoga from the ventral view. And here's the model itself. Looks cool. So let's get it out. Ever so gentle. Stand out. first impression, this is pretty darn amazing. I've always wanted a Starship Saratoga, and they did a very, very good job with this one. A very good job. The detail on the saucer section is pretty reminiscent of the Reliant that we got dozens of issues ago. But you'll also notice that the hull on this one, the model itself, is slightly bigger than the Reliant. You'll notice the absence of the infamous roll bar, unlike the Reliant and the Bozeman and other ships. And that is primarily because they had a malfunction in the model department, so they just decided to remove it, and they added these sensor pods, on the side of the ship, and that definitely distinguishes the Saratoga from the Reliant. They did a very good job with this model, except for one thing. You'll notice that unlike the Reliant model where they have the clear plastic for the warp nacelles, these are painted. So that is kind of like a major disappointment after doing so well with the Reliant that they didn't include that here. It was just kind of like a cheap way out, I think. But everything else, I think they did a good job here. The registry information is perfect and spot on. The Aztecing and paneling is great. The font's perfect. They even got the Starfleet registry on the warp nacelle and on the pylons there supporting the nacelles. And one minor thing that I mentioned way back in the day when I got the Reliant, and of course the original Enterprise refit and the Enterprise A, is that if you'll notice the front of the warp nacelles, there's actually painted in between there. The other models, the other starships in the collection that we've gotten that feature similar style of hull, that is we'll call it the motion picture era of ships, meaning the Enterprise refit, the Enterprise A, the Reliant, the Stargazer, and I think that's about it for those types of ships. All of those warp nacelles are the same. The bridge layout, the basic hull design is similar, just rearranged. And last, in all those other models that we got, the warp nacelles did not have these lines actually painted through, which is exactly how they look in the film and on the shows. So I'm glad they finally did it this time, and it just adds a little extra detail. And in my opinion, it almost makes up for the failure of including the clear blue plastic on the nacelles. This is a very, very good model. The bottom has some good detail as well. Slightly different from the Reliant model again. I'm happy to say that I'm happy to say that this model, the nacelles are not wonky or crooked or bent or anything, and this model arrived perfectly intact despite being shuffled around by the United States Postal Service. It's a very, very good model. I'm very, very happy to have in the collection. I've always wanted a Saratoga. This is a ship that has been produced several times before, most notably as a micro machine, which did not feature these sensor pods on the side. And I know various versions of the Reliant model kit have come with decals for the Saratoga and for some of the other ships that of the same class. But this is the first time, and maybe the last, I don't know, that we'll get of the Saratoga. I'm very, very happy with this model. Eagle Moss did a great job. Of course, if you're a fan of DS9, definitely pick this up. This is one of the first ships you ever saw. If you're a Starfleet ship collector, then get this. This is probably represents another one of the variants that we've gotten in the collection. There's been a couple of Voyagers, of course, multiple Enterprises of the same class. We had the Excelsior, the Enterprise B, the Reliant, and now this. And so on and so forth. So yeah, makes a worthy addition to the collection. I would definitely pick this up. It is definitely worth it. And of course it comes with a stand It slides into place like that. And the ship docks similar to the Reliant like that, although this one is a little bit more sturdier in place than the Reliant is. So yeah, this is the USS Saratoga seen on Deep Space Nine in the episode Emissary. And hopefully next month I'll have that Enterprise J and Vulcan ship to share. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and until then, live long and prosper.